Good morning, all. In today's class, we'll talk about the inductive bias. What is inductive bias? Let me share the screen and we'll have a quick overview of what we discussed in our previous class. Right. So in our previous class, we had learned about the candidate elimination algorithm, the steps in the candidate elimination algorithm, taking an example with the same example, the enjoy sport problem, with the same set of training examples, and we plotted the hypothesis and the Vergen space for the candidate elimination algorithm by first initializing the specific boundary and the general boundary. Then we slowly taking each and every example we traced out and constructed the Vergen space, right? Defining ultimately getting the final Vergen space of the six hypotheses, right? So these were the six hypotheses. In today's class, along with the remarks on the Vergen space that we discussed in our previous class, we'll be having an understanding of what is inductive bias, a new concept, a new term inside this the algorithms what we have learned in Finder's algorithm as well as in candidate elimination algorithm. What is this term inductive bias? But before that, let us have a quick remarks on the Vergen space and the candidate elimination algorithm that we have seen in our previous class. So there are three basic remarks that comes up when we talk about the Vergen space and the candidate elimination algorithm. First being, let me make it full screen. Yeah. So the first question, the first remark is that will the candidate elimination algorithm converge to the correct hypothesis? Is the hypothesis which has been given as the output by the candidate elimination algorithm is a correct one, or is it suitable one, depending on our training example? Or when can we say that the hypothesis which has been the candidate elimination algorithm has given, or the hypothesis that has been converged by the candidate elimination algorithm is a correct hypothesis? We say it correct when there is no errors in the training examples. For example, the set of training examples we took, the table, if you recall the table by now you must have been, uh, the training example, the table has been fixed in your mind. Let me go back and show you again this one. So this table, as you can see, there are four training examples, but we can only converge to a correct hypothesis. The candidate elimination algorithm can converge to a correct hypothesis only when there is no error in this training examples, right? All these training examples are defining the correct value. There is no error, right? If there is an error, then we may not converge to the correct hypothesis. So that is one remark with respect to the candidate elimination algorithms and Vergen space. Second one, for the same remark, the second way we can say that we converge to the correct hypothesis is that there is some hypothesis in the set of all hypotheses that it correctly describes the target concept. Right? At least there is some hypothesis in the complete set of the hypothesis which correctly describes our target concept. The target concept can be enjoying the sport, yes or no. So there should be some hypotheses which are correctly describing that factor. Second remark that comes up is what training examples should the learner request next, right? So the learner can have the training examples provided by external means, number one, or it can have the training examples on its own, right, by the external mean, or learner can have its training example by its own, and the Vergen space is reduced with the new training example. As and when we have a new set of training examples, the Vergen space size gets reduced. Right, uh, the hypothesis which is consistent to the target concept gets reduced. Now, these set of hypotheses that we have in our Vergen space, how do we define it? How many number of examples do we have to consider for it? So the to have that the Vergen space, to have that correct size of this Vergen space, we can say we should have log to the base 2 of Vergen space training example. These many number of training examples. So whatever the size of the Vergen space set is, log to the base 2 and the size of the Vergen space of the version space size, right? So these many training examples are minimum required to get the correct target concept. If each virgin space size is reduced by half, so if the reduced virgin space size, let's say if it is half, then these many uh, set of training examples, these many training examples is what we need to converge to to define the next training example, the next set of training example for the learner. Or else, otherwise, we require more than these many number of examples, right? More than these many training examples. In case if it is not half, the virgin space size is not half. The third remark is that how can partially learned concept be used? Right. So let's say we have another, let's say we have a few new set of training instances to be classified. Now this is not the same table. Please have a better look on it. That these are new set of training instances that we have. Let's call them instances A to D, right? And we have few new values for these same six attribute: sky, air temperature, humidity, wind, water, and forecast. But we don't know the ultimate target concept value here, right? The enjoy sport value, whether it is yes or no. So we have these new set of instances which are to be classified. So, and we have the second part is we have the same set of hypotheses that we have got from the candidate elimination algorithm, right? So we have these six hypotheses that which we saw in our previous class. We have this S4 hypothesis, this one hypothesis, second, third, fourth, and then this is fifth, and this is sixth. So these are the six hypotheses that we have seen in our previous candidate elimination algorithm technique that we get the final these hypotheses. Anyways, now on basis of these hypotheses, we have to classify the target concept value for this new instances that we have. So we have to classify whether depending on these new values for these attributes, whether we are going to enjoy this sport, yes or no. Okay, so when we see that when we have these the first instance, let's take the first instance that is A. When you compare the first instance, the all the values with our first hypothesis, it gives us the positive outcome that it is a positive instance. It is a positive instance. So you can say that it is the enjoy sport problem. The classification is yes. How I'm saying positive is, let's say, let's compare. Let me show you one example for the instance A. Sky is sunny, warm, normal, strong, cool, change. So it fits into the hypothesis, this hypothesis, like sunny, correct, warm, yes, it is there. Next is question mark, that means normal is accepted. Strong is strong, question mark, that means any value for these two parameters is accepted. So for our S4 hypothesis itself, the instance has been stands classified as true. So we can say it is a true instance. Now, when you consider the second instance B, there is no hypothesis in the output in our set of hypotheses, this version space, which can classify this instance B as positive. So it is negative. The very first attribute value we can see rainy. So it is not matching anywhere in our set of hypothesis or in our version space size. So the second instance is a negative. But when you see third instance, the third instance, when you see that the sunny, warm, normal, light, warm, same. So sunny, warm, and normal, you can say it is fitting into few of the hypotheses. Let's say here it is fitting, uh, here it is fitting, here it is fitting, right? Here it is not fitting. The S4 hypothesis is not fitting. Here also it is not fitting because we have strong value here, but here the wind is light, so not accepted. Here also it is not fitting because strong value here. So here it is fitting and here it is fitting. So basically we have three hypotheses in our version space which says the instance C is positive, but we have three hypotheses which says the instance C is negative. So it's a 50-50. Three hypotheses says the instance C is positive and three says the instance C is negative. So it is indecisive, right? We are not able to come up to a conclusion that whether the instance C has to be classified as a positive or it has to be classified as a negative instance. So C is we are not able to classify it. Right. Now talk about the instance D. Sunny, cold, normal, strong, warm, same. So when you see that the hypothesis, when you compare all the values with the hypothesis we have, it again comes the instance D as negative instance, right? The negative, why I say negative is because there are two hypotheses which are giving us positive for the instance D, but there are four hypotheses which are giving us negative. So majoritively you can say that most of the hypotheses are indicating that the instance D is a negative training example. So that therefore, considering the majority cases, we have concluded, we have classified the instance D as a negative training example. So having said that, from these four hypotheses, these four training instances, C, we are not able to come up to a conclusion whether it has to be a positive instance or it has to be a negative instance, because this is the partially learned hypothesis that we have, that 50% saying that it is a positive instance, but whereas we have 50%, that means three hypotheses saying it is a positive instance, whereas the remaining three hypotheses are saying the instance C is a negative instance. So we are indecisive, right? So that's how can a partially learned concept be used. So these were the remarks. Now, what is this inductive bias? So inductive bias, as the name suggests, inductive means something which is internal, inductive on its own. Bias is something which is a deviation, you can say, or difference, you can say. So basically, with respect to these examples, the concept, the target concept, the hypothesis, the inductive bias with respect to machine learning, here in candidate elimination algorithm, as well as in the findation algorithm, what we have learned in the previous lecture, it means that the inductive bias is basically the assumptions. Now, these are the assumptions made by the learner. Learner is the algorithm here, right? So, these are the assumptions made by our learner depending on the instances that we have given. But the learner makes few assumptions on the basis of the examples which we have given and applied it on the unseen or unobserved training examples that we give, right? So basically when we uh, the the uh, the whole crux of the inductive bias, if I want to put it in a simple terms, that it is the it, the inductive bias of any particular algorithm, let's say Finders algorithm or a candidate elimination algorithm, we will see how we have been making use of this inductive bias. But just to give you an understanding what is inductive bias of a learning algorithm, let's say Finders algorithm or candidate algorithm, is the set of assumptions, right? It is the set of assumptions that the learner or our algorithm uses to predict the outcome, right? Outcome is nothing but the classification yes or no, right? To predict the outcome of for the given inputs. These are the inputs that we have already given, right? So predict the outcome of the given input, that is a given input that is not encountered or not observed by the algorithm before, not seen by the algorithms before. So you can recall the initial lecture when we discussed about the example of a bird and a car, how target concept is learned, how a algorithm make few assumptions, and then on basis of it, it classifies it. But how far is this this inductive bias is coming handy to us, or how is it creating errors or problem in classifying the target concept? So we will have an understanding of it for how this inductive bias is based on. So a biased hypothesis space. Let's say we have this training example. We have this training example, a new set of training examples with new values for these same six attributes, and we also have the classification for those instances, these new instances. So if you remember our uh, the first specific hypothesis that we will get is sunny, warm, normal. This is the first training example, right? This is the first training example. So when we execute the, let's say, candidate elimination algorithm, the most specific hypothesis, which is all the values, when all the values are assigned with 5, right? When S naught is equal to set of all the 5 values and so on, right? So bear with me with this. Right. So let's say this is our um, most specific hypothesis. But when we encounter our first instance, then the S0 gets converted into S1 by having these same set of hypotheses, the same set of attribute values here. Right? S1 becomes sunny, warm, normal, strong, cool, and change. Right? Now, second, when it comes to the second training example, the the first attribute value is cloud for the attribute sky, but all the other values are same as it is with respect to the first instance. So in order to, but it is a positive instance, right? It is a positive, both are the positive instance. So since it is a positive instance, we have to consider this example and we have to replace this value of cloud with a question mark. So that is the reason you can see here in the hypothesis S2 that the first value has been replaced by question mark, right? And all the other values of the attributes are same, which is warm, normal, strong, cool, and change. So this is our S2. Now when we see the third training example, rainy, warm, normal, strong, cool, and change. Though these the all the five attribute values are same as we have in our previous example, and it also satisfies our the current hypothesis here. That is, first is the question mark, which satisfied that it is rainy. Rainy is accepted according to this. Is accepted, and all the other values are same as it is in our hypothesis, which means our hypothesis says that it is a proper hypothesis. The training example is a potential positive training example. But as we have already classified, we already have the classification for it, but it is a negative classification. It's a no. For this training example, the enjoy sport is no, right? So it is a biased hypothesis space. The previous instance, what we take now at this point, when we have this hypothesis, the previous instance, what we take, that is our second training example, is our biased hypothesis space. This is our biased hypothesis because this is the hypothesis which made us uh, generalize the specific hypothesis, but it does not satisfy few of the training examples which are, though the hypothesis is same, it says it can be classified as positive, but we have a training example, the outcome of it is a negative. It's a negative instance. Therefore, the previous hypothesis, that is the second hypothesis, we will say that it is a biased hypothesis space. I hope you get that the point of the inductive bias in a biased hypothesis space. Now, in order to avoid that, what we do is we make use of an unbiased learner, right? In order to avoid that biased factor, we make a use of an unbiased learner. Now, how do we set up this unbiased learner? As the name suggests, the learner is unbiased, right? But how do we set up it? We can get the all the instances, right? We have to take into consideration of all the instances. How can we get that? By defining the power set of all the instances, right? So the power set of all the instances will gives us the unbiased set of hypotheses, and we can say that the learner is unbiased only when we have the hypotheses which are unbiased. I hope you get this point. Just to give an example, let's say we have three positive. Let's say we have a set of training examples which is wherein t is equal to 5. That means we have five training examples. Right? Instead of four training examples, let's say we have five training examples. Out of these five training examples, three are positive, right? Yeah. So let's say three are positive and two are positive examples. Sorry, two have to be negative examples. What do you mean? Uh, x1, x2, x3, positive examples with the specific. This is the specific hypothesis you can say, wherein x1 is the disjunction. X1 or x2 or x3 is our specific hypothesis here. But when we have two negative examples, pardon me for this, we have general hypothesis which negates the x4 training example, which is a negative, and x5 is training example, which is negative again. So I hope you got the point how to set up a power set of instances with the unbiased hypothesis. Now, the third aspect in our inductive bias is the futility of the bias-free learning. Right? Futility means that the pointlessness of the bias-free learning algorithm, or how is it not so useful, you can say. So when a learner that makes no prior assumptions, right? When the learner makes no prior assumptions, and has no rational bias, right? Has no rational bias, right? It has no rational bias for the classification of any unseen instances. It is as good as, right? You are not assuming anything, and when you are not assuming anything, you have the way to rationally think it when you have those unseen examples or unseen instances, right? Because when you assume anything but you don't find those particular instances, you you tend to not classify those instances in a right manner, right? So those a learner, it can when that learner makes no prior assumptions, we can say that the identity of the target concept has no rational bias, right? For those set of instances which are not observed earlier or not trained earlier or have not been seen by the learner previously. Now, how can we do that? This can be done by using a inductive bias. Now, in order to do that inductive bias, in order to make use of inductive bias, we have to consider the inductive inference. What is this inference? Right? Inference, as the name suggests, like inductive inferences. Let's say, let me give an example with what we discussed in our previous classes. Let's say we have set of training examples D, right? And we have a target concept C. So for all the target concept C and the set of training examples D, we have the conjunction or the AND operation here, the conjunction with all the instances, right? All the training instances X, right? Which infers, this particular symbol here refers, which infers the learner. L is our learner. Learner is nothing but our algorithm. Let it be finders algorithm or candidate elimination algorithm. So the set of training examples for the target concept C and all the set of training instances X, I is the instances, right? For all the training instances Xi, it infers the learner with all the set of training instances Xi and the target concept DC, right? D is the set of all instances, set of all training examples, pardon me, and C is the target concept. So this is what defines a inductive inference. Now let's define the inductive bias with respect to the candidate elimination algorithm. Since we have already seen what is a candidate elimination algorithm and how it operates, but how does an inductive bias plays a role in the candidate elimination algorithm is what we are going to see here. So inductive bias of the candidate elimination algorithm is the target concept C which contains or which is consistent in the given hypothesis space capital H. H is the set of all the hypotheses, right? Where H, small letter H, belongs to set of all hypotheses capital H. Right. So we can say that the inductive bias of the candidate elimination algorithm is the target concept C is consistent in the hypothesis. Right. So we can also say that the target concept C is element of all the set of hypothesis H. So please remember this. Right. So how can we denote this? How can we represent this? So B is a set of assertions, right? We will see what is it. B is a set of assertions, you can say, which is conjuncted with the set of training examples D and the set of instances Xi, which implies this particular symbol represents, which implies that the learner has the instances Xi among the all the uh, training examples DC, right? So This is exactly what has been explained here in the inductive bias of the candidate elimination algorithm. Right. So just to give you a better understanding, so far any doubt so far with respect to what we discussed? Yeah. Anybody? If you have any doubt, you can unmute your mic and you can stop me anytime and ask your doubt. Okay. So in case if you didn't understood anything, you can stop me and you can unmute your mic and you can ask me the doubt. Anyways, again to give you a brief overview of what we discussed, let us consider with a diagram that let's say we have this, we have our algorithm, we have our let's say candidate elimination algorithm. This box represents a candidate elimination algorithm, which gives us few set of hypothesis space. Algorithm, what we give is we give few set of training examples. Right? So this is the input for our candidate elimination algorithm, and at the same time, let's say we give few new instances to this candidate elimination algorithm. Now these are the instances which I have never encountered by this candidate elimination algorithm. So this algorithm, what it does, it makes use of the hypothesis that what we have found, and it ultimately gives out the output. Now, what is this output? The output is the classification of the training example. What classification? Either it can be a yes classification, whether it is a positive training example, or it is a no classification, that it is a negative training example. Or in case if it is not able to identify this new instance, unobserved or unseen new instance, then it will give you the output that it don't know. The candidate elimination algorithm don't know or is not able to take a decision whether this new instance is a positive or a negative training example. Now, the same thing, how it can be done using an inductive bias is what is denoted in the second diagram below. So this is our equivalent deductive system. Equivalent deductive system. The same thing. Let's say we have an algorithm. Let us call it as a theorem prover, right? Which takes which takes training examples, right? Which takes new instances again as the input, and the output is same. What it outputted is give us the classification, whether the training examples of the new instance is a positive training example, it's a negative, or if it is don't know the classification. But we are also giving this algorithm an inductive bias, which is made explicit to it. Right? Now, how are we giving this inductive bias? This inductive bias are, you can see, this set of assertions, right? Set of assertions, what we discussed in our previous slide here. So these are the assertions, right? This is what it is. Like the target concept C is belongs to, or it contains, or it is the element of the set of hypothesis space capital H. So this is the assertion, right? So we are also providing along with the training examples and new instance, we are also providing this thing to our training examples, right? Which we were not providing it earlier in the candidate in our previous algorithms. So these assertions, which contains the assertions H, which contains the target concept C. Now, as you can see that this might give you better result, or this is, you can say, have better advantage over our previous method of inductive system, right? Inductive system, you can say, may not be as accurate as the equivalent deductive system, but the deductive system can give us better accuracy. Why? Because we are able to identify those we are able to identify those biased hypotheses, and we are able to approach our classification in a more better way, right? So what are the advantages of this inductive bias? So I hope the diagram has would have made it clear. But again, to put it in a different words, like the advantage of having this inductive bias is it uh, viewing the inductive inferences system in the terms of their inductive bias is that it provides a non-procedural means. Non-procedural means why? Because the approach that we used here was a non-procedural means. So non-procedural means how it is advantageous? It can give us the flexibility, right? It can give us the flexibility. So it provides a non-procedural means of characterizing their policy for generalizing beyond the observed data, right? Generalizing beyond the observed data. That's the first advantage. The second advantage is that it allows comparison of different learners, right? It allows us to compare different learners according to the strength of the inductive bias, right? So by this we can clearly classify whether which algorithm is more inductive bias or which algorithm is less inductive bias. So this is the advantage of having an inductive bias, that it allows us to compare different algorithms or different learners according to the strength, right? What strength of inductive bias is that algorithm employing, or they are making use of. So whatever we have learned so far in Finders algorithm, candidate elimination algorithm, and what is the strength of the inductive bias, let us understand that and compare that how this candidate elimination algorithm and Finders algorithm is strengthy or not so strengthy in respect to the inductive bias. Now, this is the comparison between three algorithms. We have three algorithms: rote learner algorithm, our candidate elimination algorithm, and our finders algorithm that we have learned in our previous classes. So this comparison is basically with respect to only the inductive bias. Now the rote learner algorithm, it's a simple algorithm which, as the name suggests, it's a rote learner. So what it does, it by hearts or learns all the training examples which we have given. Right? It by hearts all the training examples along with the labels. The labels is the classifications. So it by hearts all these training examples or training instances. But if it has been given, if this algorithm has been given as given a new instance, which is an unseen instance to this algorithm, it may not give you the result, right? So if there is exact match, right? If only if there is an exact match is found, it returns the result. Otherwise, it doesn't returns the result. So it is simple as that, right? So basically, we can say that it doesn't have any inductive bias. There is no bias only, zero bias, you can say. So the rote learner has no inductive bias. Let us consider the candidate elimination algorithm now. In the candidate elimination algorithm, we saw that the new instances are classified, right? The candidate elimination algorithm is able to give us the new instances. But the candidate elimination algorithm, when the new instances are classified, only in the case where all members are current version space, right? All members are of the current version space and agree on to the classification, right? Otherwise, what happens? It refuses to classify new instances, right? It says, I don't know the classification. As you can see that we have seen in our previous example, one instance we saw the training instance C, which it was not able to identify whether it is a positive or a negative instance. So if it is a member of the current version space, it will classify the new instance. But if the new instance, if it is not in the current version space, it refuses to classify and say, I don't know. So we can say there is a inductive bias. There is inductive bias playing role. But when we come to the finders algorithm, which we have learned in our initial classes, the finders algorithm guaranteed us the most specific hypothesis, right? It guarantees us the output. If you make use of finders algorithm, it ensures that you at least get one hypothesis which is consistent with the training example. So the most specific hypothesis which is consistent with the training examples is what we get from the finders algorithm. Then it then uses the hypothesis to classify all these subsequent instances. With whatever the hypothesis that has been output has been given as the output by the finders algorithm, which is nothing but the most specific, right? As the name suggests, find S. S is the specific. The most specific hypothesis. When we get this, The Finders algorithm uses this hypothesis to classify those new instances or subsequent instances in the training example. But we can see the strength of inductive bias is higher than candidate admission algorithm. So if we want to compare these three algorithms, we can say the inductive bias in the learner algorithm is pretty less or nearly zero when compared to candidate elimination algorithm. But the candidate elimination algorithm, inductive bias in the candidate elimination algorithm is less compared to Finders algorithm. Finders algorithm is very much biased, or it makes use of higher inductive bias when it compares to other two algorithms, that is candidate elimination algorithm and rote learner algorithm. So that is all about the inductive bias. So I hope the things are clear. If you have any doubt, the session is open for the question and answer. You can ask me any doubt, whatever we have discussed so far, or in today's class, or whatever. You can unmute your mic and you can ask me. Or you can put it in the chat box that if you have any doubt or if you don't have any doubt, let me know, because I will not understand unless you will tell me or give me the feedback that you are understanding or not understanding. Yeah, please, I'm waiting. At least put it in the chat box that if you have a doubt, you can ask the doubt. If you have no doubt, okay. Mohammad Arif says no doubt. Good. What about others? Anybody having any doubt? Please let me know. Because we have ended this module, the module ends here, module one. So in the next lecture onwards, we will have our new module, module two. So if you have any doubt so far, whatever we have discussed in today's, let it be in today's lecture or so far in the complete module, you can ask me. Right. So these are the fundamentals. If you are strong with these, the further concepts will be very easy for you to understand, right? But at the same time, if you are not well versed with these fundamentals, the subsequent coming topics will be a nightmare for you. And the as I have discussed in my first lecture, the introductory lecture, that in the textbook that we are using, the type of language which has been used is pretty high or technically strong, you can say. So I've tried my level best to make the content very simpler to understand and explain the things in a much more simpler manner, right? So if you are not clear in any of the aspect, we can discuss in more depth and taking more examples. So if you have any doubt, you can ask any doubt, right? So let me show back whatever we have discussed, right? So today we discussed about the remarks and version space of the candidate elimination algorithm, the inductive bias. Okay, let me give a quick recap from the beginning what we discussed. Right, we had an introduction session from the syllabus. We had the introduction of what is machine learning and the application areas of applications and the disciplines it makes use of. Then the successful applications here of machine learning. The problems, what are the well-posed problems? How can a problem be called as a well-posed problem for a machine learning? What are the different factors? There are a few examples which we saw, checkers learner algorithm, and so on. Then we discussed the design of that particular problem, right? The checkers problem, if you remember. We designed the problem for it, the flowchart for it. We answered few questions, perspectives, and issues in machine learning. We designed the learning system, the concept learning tasks as a search by understanding the general to specific ordering of hypothesis. Then we slowly move forward to understand concepts, uh, how those concepts are learned by the algorithms, then what are these concept, how these concept learning tasks being learned as a search, sorry, by making use of the enjoy split problem. How to represent the hypothesis, right? How to compute or how to compare the instances that the instances are satisfying the hypothesis, how the when the instances can be called as consistent with the hypothesis, the most general hypothesis, the most specific hypothesis, when we had the notation of those hypotheses, positive examples, negative examples, when our positive examples can be called as a member of target concept, when it can be called as a non-member of a target concept, right? Representation of it. The inductive learning hypothesis, what is inductive learning hypothesis we saw. Then the possible distinct possible syntactically distinct hypothesis and the semantically distinct hypothesis by ignoring the negative training examples we saw. Then general to specific ordering, more general than relationship. We saw the notations to define more general than relationship, more general than and equal to relationship, then more specific than relationship. Is saw an example with respect to the Venn diagram, the set of instances and the hypothesis. We defined the Findex algorithm. We discussed the algorithm. We discussed the flowchart of the algorithm. We took an example and defined the flowchart, the instances, the key properties of the Findex algorithm, right? And the questions which are left unanswered by this algorithm, the drawbacks you can say. Then we move on to discuss about the virgin space in the candidate elimination algorithm, the representation of virgin space, how do we represent it, the applications by the authors. We defined what is consistency, what is satisfying constraints, and those things. We defined what is a virgin space, how it is represented, denoted, right? This is the concept of virgin space and the virgin space, how it looks when we consider the enjoy split problem. So this was a small algorithm, the list then eliminate algorithm to explain the concept of virgin space. Then we move more to discuss the general boundary concept of the specific boundary, its notations, and then we learned about the candidate elimination algorithm, the algorithm itself, the example with respect to this example, this algorithm, stepwise execution of this example, trace 1, trace 2, trace 3, and the final version space. Then ultimately, what are the questions or remarks on this version space and also on the candidate elimination algorithm is what we discussed in our today's lecture. These were the few remarks raised, and ultimately very important concept, the inductive bias. Right? What is inductive bias? How it affects the overall classification when a new instance is given to the training or the learner, right? Or a new training example is given to the learner. How an unbiased learner can play its role, right? And what is how it gives better accuracy when we have the inductive system at place, which has a predictive system, and how it is better or accurate than compared to the inductive system. Its advantages and the overall comparison of the algorithms, three algorithms, with respect to the inductive bias concept. Right. So, if you have any doubt, you can see. Mohammad Arif says, "Can you revise once in next class of today's class? Why you were not attentive in today's class?" You got it. Okay. Okay, so just now I gave you the revision of today's class, right? Anyways, so now moving ahead, what I was thinking was the lab. Let me show you the lab program. So this is the lab experiment that we have to. Let me zoom in. Right. So the Findex algorithm and candidate elimination algorithm we have already seen in our in this module. So experiment number 1 and 2, I would give you to this as an assignment that Findex algorithm and candidate elimination algorithm, you have to implement it maybe any platform uh, Jupyter notebook or anything on which you are comfortable, preferably Jupyter notebook, I would say. By taking any example, any set of training example, that is CSV file, which is available on internet. There are a lot of websites, Kaggle website, wherein you can download the CSV file and implement these algorithms, right? So this is the assignment for you, the algorithm, the first experiment and second experiment, that is finders algorithm and candidate elimination algorithm. You have to do as an assignment. Of course, we will discuss once you come back. But for time being, since the labs, we never know when these labs are going to start as an offline on the offline platform. So we will start off with the labs as well. Right. So if there are no doubts, we will conclude the lecture and we'll start the new model in the next lectures. Thank you.